including Crystal.
Fantastic. So good. I want to kick this off with a very brief introduction. So I would like for one of you to, first of all, and if you cannot, I can summarize what is happening in Philly and what is happening in Nigeria. So give us a summary. And for Nigeria, I'd like to hear the October happenings in Nigeria. And then I'd like to hear what just happened in the last week in Philly. So who'd like to jump in? Oh, I think you might be muted. I'm sorry. Let's see, Dr. Crystal, can you start with Philly? Can you want to kick us off with what happened in Philly?
I'd be happy to, but I should also say that for over 15 years, I've done research in Nigeria and actually recently published a piece in Harper's Bazaar, kind of breaking down what's going on with EndSARS. So I am really eager to explore the connections between both movements. So as it pertains to the local context in Philadelphia, on Monday afternoon, the Philadelphia police responded to a call for an ambulance for a 27-year-old Black man by the name of Walter Wallace Jr., who lived in West Philadelphia and who was in the midst of a mental health crisis that the police department was aware of and also familiar with because he has had encounters in the past with police and has, had need for care from mental health and other kinds of professionals. However, on Monday, instead of extending care to someone who needed it, the Philadelphia police shot Walter Wallace Jr. 14 times in front of his mother, in front of his community members who did not feel threatened and who were begging the police officers to not hurt him. Instead, they killed him. And since the first night, people in the community, including myself, came into the streets to demand justice for Walter Wallace Jr. and also to continue raising alarm that many of us have been raising this summer. Many of us were in the streets all throughout this summer. And also for years, many of us have been doing this work, really drawing attention to police violence and state violence. And on Monday night, community members went to the precinct at 55th and Pine, which is where they dispatched the officers. And we were provoked and brutalized by the police officers on that night. I personally had to run for my life from the police officers. On Tuesday night, a very similar thing happened, although we started out at Malcolm X Park with a rally. And then we marched to the precinct once again, and then marched back to 52nd Street. And a lot of people were arrested. Over 100 people have been arrested in the protests. I know personally, many people who were brutalized, again, had to run for our lives. And, a dear friend and organizer, Anthony Smith with Philly for Real Justice, was arrested by federal agents on Wednesday. And so what we are seeing here, which is very similar to what we are seeing in Nigeria, is that police kill Black people. From the US to West Africa to South America and everywhere in between. And when we rise up to protest against the way police kill Black people, we are met with more police violence, right? And there was a very chilling moment that I think is quite appropriate for this venue, which is on Monday evening on 52nd Street, a police car was ablaze. And there was a young woman who I actually just happened to be recording at the time. And, I had just finished turning in this article that I shared with you all about sort of explaining the rise and suppression of EndSARS. she was screaming, "This is happening in Nigeria too. SARS is a problem. It's happening all over Africa." And I couldn't believe that she said that, because there's a way that sometimes our struggles feel very disconnected and that people are not aware of our struggles. But this was a completely unprompted just connection that I feel is also being made in this conversation today. And so I just wanted to share that, because I think it's a really instructive and illustrative way for us to enter into this conversation in this moment. And I'll stop there. And I know there are others who can speak to the NSARS movement, and I would be happy to also share my own perspective on that, especially because I'm very connected to NSARS organizers on the ground as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crystal. And I would like to ask Daniel, if you wouldn't mind giving us the similar story of what is happening in Nigeria right now, just in case someone doesn't know.
Okay, thank you so much for beckoning on me. Well, the situation in Nigeria isn't really too much of a difference from the story Crystal has shared from Philadelphia to Nigeria as well. Over the years, Nigerians have complained about the brutality of the Nigerian police, and most of them have actually taken on to the streets to protest. But the recent NSAS protest in Nigeria has come to the fore much more abundantly clear to Nigerians that there is a need for not just police reforms, but there is a need to stop police brutality. The reason are largely because the number of death tolls rising from police brutality has been extremely enormous. Human rights activists and international bodies have called on the Nigerian government to see how they can disband certain movements in the Nigerian police force that intends to checkmate certain types of crime in the guise of such appellations, but they do much more evil than what they were set up or what they have been set up to do. So this story hits more heavily, especially on the 20th of October 2020, where Nigerian protesters who were peacefully demonstrating on the streets, largely around the Lekki tollgate axis, locked hands together, singing the national anthem with the Nigerian flag raised up high above their heads, were shot at intentfully by men of the Nigerian military. It called for a lot of attention and a lot of backlash from celebrities, from human rights activists, from people you could refer to as ordinary Nigerians, and literally across Africa and even the world, because that was never expected from the Nigerian military. Questions are still being asked, and a lot of issues have been raised with respect to that. There have been a lot of discussion around that borderline, and it shows that the protest was really, really intent on stopping police brutality. Whether or not the protest has achieved its aim is a different symposium discussion altogether. So the clamor for the brutality from the Nigerian police to perhaps be minimal or totally annihilated remains very contentious in the social and global space, particularly in Nigeria as well.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I am intentionally now going to ask us to play our Black National Anthem. We usually would do this before, but to me, to introduce the situation now explains why this song is so powerful. And with that, if you would take a moment, we're going to listen.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you.
And that's our very own Nala B. We definitely want to hear feedback from not just our panelists tonight, but also from those of you who are out here and who have experienced directly or have been a part of what's been going on in these social movements. So I'm going to actually ask the rest of our panel, Shioma or Ibukun, if you guys want to jump in, Ete, if you guys want to jump in, what is the commonality? We were talking about peaceful protests tonight. What's the commonality of police brutality and our response to it? What are we supposed to respond? How are we supposed to respond right now, given what's going on in both locations? What are we supposed to be doing?
I'll jump in here. Well, I think what Dr. Crystal mentioned was I'm so glad she mentioned the spontaneous utterance that she happened to hear during the protests for what's happening here in Philadelphia locally, because I think the first and the most important thing that we can be doing right now is making those connections. Of course, everyone, the protests that happened this summer, they got global attention. It wasn't just what we as Americans were witnessing. The whole world saw the uprisings, the frustrations of Americans seeing time and time again the lives of unarmed Black people being taken out, whether it's not just police. We should also remember, we're talking about police brutality, but Ahmaud Arbery was killed by ordinary citizens. And it was the same government structure that protected his killers from prosecution for months. So the whole world saw that. They saw the frustration, stored it in their memory, and then things are happening in other places. And now, through the assistance of social media, people are making the connections. They're seeing that this is not just happening in one place. It's happening everywhere around the world. And unfortunately, the common denominator is Black people. Black people, time and time again, are the ones that are being oppressed. I think the connection that, hopefully we'll talk about more as we're going today. The connection, I think for some, they miss, in Nigeria, in the case of Nigeria, and it's not only Nigeria, Dr. Crystal mentioned Brazil. There are lots of countries where you may have oppressor and oppressed. They're the same ethnic group or racial background. But there is a larger story behind that. But I think the biggest thing is making the connection. We shouldn't be protesting in a vacuum. We shouldn't be reading about these issues in a vacuum. We should be making the links and realizing that there's something happening, and it's been happening time and time again for many, many years. And what are the connections between what's happening in Nigeria, what's happening in Philadelphia, what happens in London, what happens in Australia, Canada, so on and so forth.
You want to jump in, Victoria?
Yes, please. So I really want to add to what Chairman just said. However, the commonality of police brutality in Nigeria, or definitely the world at large, I can speak for Nigeria, is that 3 out of 4 Nigerians have experiences to share as regards being brutalized by the police. Now, it has become so common, it's become so normal that everyone thinks it's normal. Like you step out of the house and it's more like a greeting, oh, wait, did you meet any policeman today? And it's like more like a greeting, oh yeah, I did, I was brutalized. It's like everything is, now it is so normal that the policemen, approaching you, not just about working, they go and tag emails and they profile you for the way you look. You're carrying an iPhone, you're driving a car, you're being dressed so nicely, and you're being stopped and asked questions that do not relate to their line of job. I mean, the police were to protect life and properties, right? And not to go in, trying to scare citizens, trying to kill citizens of the country they were supposed to protect. I didn't even make a point. So now it is common that everywhere now, what we have like Black Lives Matter is like now, so the blacks are being killed by the police, but here in Nigeria, you're being killed by the same police that are meant to protect us. So it's more common. It's common that even after the government ends SWAT and ends SARS, like they said, just 2 days ago, I saw a clip that a boy was still being harassed by a police officer when he was trying to board a bus. So it's still being common. So we can't overemphasize on that, please. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to jump in with this? I really want to ask, what does peaceful protest look like right now? Dr. Crystal, I don't know if you have, because it's looking different, and I can even attest to, because I've been in the areas where the Philadelphia protests are happening. And, for some of our young people in particular who are angry and maybe not sure or don't have background on how to protest or how to even place the anger. And I'm sure it's very similar in Nigeria. What does peaceful protest look like, or what should it look like, or does it even have a definition anymore?
So one thing I will say as a bit of a caveat is that I think it's important for us to recognize the way that the language of peaceful, as it is applied to protest, is utilized as a way of criminalizing our resistance, right? It's utilized to attempt to drive a wedge between respectable forms of protest that the state is prepared to allow and other kinds of resistance that it is prepared to criminalize and punish, right? And so I think it's very important for us to think about what kind of peace is even possible in a system that is rooted in violence against Black people specifically. I've attended this week protests that were intending to be peaceful, but we were met with violence by the police. And if you have attended protests regularly, or hopefully this has not been your experience, but a very common experience I have when I protest is that the police intentionally try to escalate violence. They intentionally try to create situations that are tense. They want to be able to arrest people. There was a report a couple of weeks ago about how Philadelphia police officers got $70 million in overtime this summer. And so they actually enjoy being out there. At least that's how it appears to me, because there's a smugness, there's a disdain, there's a way that they willfully provoke people, put us in high pressure situations in order for there to be violence. So I just want to ground us in that reality, because I think there's a way that the discourse of peacefulness with protest is actually working against the kind of freedom Black people are seeking and striving and rising up for. Now, having said that, I think what we have also seen in these past months is that there's a lot of energy, right? What we are seeing time and time again, we had uprisings in Philadelphia for someone who's not even from Philadelphia, right? And so there's just a deep level of rage and a deep level of fatigue with the way that Black people are treated in this country and in this world, right? And so part of what is happening also is that, being an organizer is actually a skill set. Like when I organize a protest with my comrades, we make sure certain things are set up. We have legal observers. We have street medics who can care for people in case the police attack us, We have an actual agenda and program for what our protest is going to look like. We choose to locate our protests in places that make sense, that contribute to our message. We've protested at City Hall. We've protested at the Art Museum. We've protested at Malcolm X Park because it's called Malcolm X Park and it's in a Black community. And when we move, we are moving to places with intention, with security in mind. And that is not always the case, right? We are sometimes seeing people who want to do something and may not be aware of all of these precautions that experienced organizers are putting into place to ensure that people are actually safe, right? Or as safe as one can be in a system that is prepared to suppress protest. And, you know, that's a very, very similar situation to Nigeria. I mean, one of the things that I wrote in the piece that I shared, which is called The Rise and Suppression of NSARS, is that, you know, if we look at the root of policing, whether it's in the US, the root of policing is slave patrols, right? It's these armed militias that are intending to literally restrict Black freedom, right? To take Black people who have been freed or have emancipated themselves back into bondage, right? And if we look at Nigeria's policing structure, it was formed in the context of colonialism, right? Colonialism and an intention to protect capital, to protect land, right? To protect elite interests. And so when you put on top of colonialism, militarism, right? The fact that for decades, you know, we're talking about military regimes and, you know, Nigeria's current president is a former military leader. It shouldn't shock us that in the context of that kind of system, the state is willing to use its force to suppress dissent. And that is exactly what we are seeing. If you look at the images, and there's some just really chilling and horrific images of the young people on October 20th, 2020 in Lekki, sitting on the ground, waving Nigerian flags, singing the Nigerian national anthem, and then you hear the sounds of soldiers opening fire on them. You see the bullets, the casings, right? You see the young people who were murdered. You know, the military actually, they stole the bodies of people they killed so that they wouldn't be able to have an accurate account of how many people were killed. And right after it happened, the army denied, they actually tweeted that it was fake news that the massacre happened. And similarly, we see here in Philadelphia, you know, yesterday there was a video released of the police literally breaking the glass of a van that wasn't even a part of the protest, dragging the adults inside out, kidnapping the child, and then deciding to take a picture with the child to make it look like it was an abandoned child. And so I'm trying to draw these parallels because even though the faces are different, even though the power structure, the social system is different, what we are seeing is the inherent violence that policing is rooted in, right? And that when we resist, it is a fundamental threat to the system, right? And so there's only so much one can do to protect yourself in a system that is willing and committed to suppress resistance at all costs, which is why it becomes ever more important for us to struggle together. Because when we are isolated, we are weaker. When we are unorganized, we are weaker. When we don't have strategy and plan, we are weaker. When we're not prepared to defend ourselves, right? Or to know what it means to, you know, try to mitigate these forms of brutality that have no sense to them, right? They're senseless, right? We are weaker until we do these things.
I want to get back to in just a moment about the uniting and about the organization. I want to first bring in Ibukun. I want to hear a little bit from you on the social media side, and I'm going to let anyone that wants to jump in. These are not pointed questions, so please, anyone that wants to flow, feel free. I'd like to know, though, social media has changed the way we protest. So Dr. Crystal just spoke to a lot of the physical protests that happened, okay, that had organization behind it. But we document protests now. There are videos being shared now, some of them doctored, some of them accurate, some of them released without the authorities wanting them to be. Do you think this has yielded any positive results? And I'm just tossing this out to anyone that wants to jump in on this topic. I just would like to hear from Ubukun too, but what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I really think that social media has had a lot of effect on how well we can protest, especially in Nigeria. Funny, this year, the Nigerian government was trying to put restrictions on the use of social media by Nigeria. So there was a social media bill that was proposed, and a number of people had to go speak to the government about it, and it was withdrawn. If the social media bill had passed, I do not think that the NSAS movement would have had as much effect as it had in this month, because this movement has actually it started in 2017, but only because the social media bill did not pass this year was it able to actually reach its peak. So I really think that if that had been put in place, we would not have had the kind of impact that we have. Now, with the entire incident that happened in October, the government, I'm sure there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of clamor and side talks about reinstating the bill and the kind of destruction that social media caused because of the violences that erupted as a result of the hijack on the NSAS protest. However, even though it looks like we did not get SARS to end in a form, I think that we birthed something new. We birthed something new in Nigeria. The day those young citizens sat on the floor and held the flag and sang the national anthem, and their blood stained the flag, that day, many youths moved from the sideline to the front line. Because before now, we just looked and just hoped that things would change. We thought the older generation, the new best, and when it was time, they would do the right thing. Now we understand that we don't need to wait for them. We need to take our future in our hands and we need to start now. And that is what social media actually did for us. So it may not look like a big win in the real scheme of it, but the truth is, now it's like a sleeping giant that woke up on October 10th. That was what happened on October 10th. And if not for social media, if not for the events I said on October 4th that led up to the day when innocent citizens were allegedly killed, we would not have the number of people now that are interested in creating change for Nigeria. Because Nigeria's problem is way past police brutality. The NSAS movement was just the face of everything else that was wrong with Nigeria, which we were interested in getting to the root of, or we're just starting from somewhere. So we'll start from somewhere and we'll get to the other things. And the goal and agenda was, let's start with this, deal with this, and we keep moving. But what they didn't realize was that when many people were sitting on sidelines and wondering, should I be a part of this? Should I not think about it? Should I move on? Them seeing their brothers, their sisters, their friends, their neighbors killed with it because they were singing and holding flags, caused them to wake up and do the right thing. Now, nobody is interested in just, now the talk is about how do you get a PVC, how do you vote? Because before now, elections, last elections, a lot of people didn't go out to vote. A lot of people were not even granted access to their PVC. They couldn't, there was a lot of rigging, alleged rigging, and a lot of things that went on during the last elections. Now, the next elections are in 2023. We have enough time to start the right conversation. Social media has allowed that, so we can start the right conversation. How can we get our PVCs? How can we get the right leaders? How can we, now we're asking the right questions that can lead to the right result, that can lead to the right change. So for us, it's not just about ending police brutality. It's about the entire system and what the system has created, and making sure that from from one movement, even more things get to change, even more lives get to be affected, even more. And this is all the result of social media. Now, if in the next few weeks they actually do come up again and say that they want to reinstate the bill to end social and freedom on social media, I'm sure that we'll even have an uproar, even more than the NSAS. Because if they had actually succeeded earlier on, we wouldn't have had the kind of impact that we had. Because we didn't just get Nigeria to notice, we got the world to notice. And it was because, and I think it was largely because even the United States had that amount of impact earlier in the year with the old George Floyd case and how it just blew during the Corona season. And the whole world was paying attention. I think what we experienced was just the aftermath of that wave. And we just picked that wave and ran with it. Now that wave is leading to other things. It's not just about ending SARS. And if you saw the hashtag, it was about end SARS, end bad government. Those were the two hashtags that trended together, end SARS, end bad government. And we just want to be able to live good lives, have the best environment, have something that we can pass on to our children. Now we are getting into those conversations. Before that time, we wouldn't have really, we'll just keep hoping. And we won't speak up. I mean, one of the funny hashtags that came up as a result of this was Sorosoke, which means speak louder, speak up for those that are oppressed, speak up for justice, speak up for what is right. We are tired of keeping quiet. I mean, you're harassed every time, you just smile and then you go. I mean, I was watching a video the other day, like earlier in the week, a girl was at the ATM and somebody, a man in uniform came to the ATM to use the ATM, and she asked a simple question. She said, "Are you on the queue?" And the guy brought out his belt to beat her because she asked, "Are you on the queue?" And she told him to kill her. And she brought out her phone and recorded it and put it on social media and got him arrested. Before now, that probably wouldn't have happened. But thankfully, social media has allowed an environment where people can bring up their cases. I mean, it's jungle justice sort of, but at least you know that when you were not heard before, there's a level playing field for somewhere that you can go and be heard. And it may not seem like we've gotten the NSAS results that we thought we wanted to get, but I think we've gotten something more, and we've gotten youths more involved in the conversation, and we've gotten them more involved in the act. So they are more interested about seeing the change, and they're interested in owning that change as well. And for me, that is even a bigger win.
That is so powerful. And it is absolutely, I think, even what we've seen here that social media has done is that where this could have been a segmented issue, social media has let us put it out to the world. And if anything, for the diaspora, how do we, because social media does give us that opportunity to unite, how do we get involved? So I want to take this moment to, number one, if you've written a book, if you guys have written an article, I know Dr. Crystal, you talked about something you recently released. Can you please post the links on the chat? We want to share this with our community, okay? If you guys have articles, anything relatable, we want to kind of share your information. But also, I'd like to take a moment for those that can't get access to the chat. Tell us, what are the organized systems or organizations or groups that people should be aware of that we can work together, okay, to be involved? So I know we've talked about some of the ways that social media has helped, but what are some of the organizations? Anybody can jump in here, Daniel, Victoria, anyone that wants to jump in. Let's start throwing out some information that maybe we don't know. If people would band together and kind of, Dr. Crystal, tell us what we need to know and what should we all be involved with and be watching. Daniel, I'll start with you.
So yeah, thank you so much. I think there is a lot to actually understand, and there's a lot to actually learn from all that's happened quite over the weeks and the days now past. I would quickly like to start with an experience, a personal experience, on the well-known date, the 20th of October, 2020. On that particular date where this particular event happened, I was in my house. I had returned from the live protest on the streets, because of the 4 p.m. curfew that the state government here in Lagos State fixed or came up with very late in the day at the moment, and then in the moment rather, and then I came back, then eventually decided to be Lekki on the streets of Lekki strongly and vehemently at their position with respect to what the government has done. And actually, the government did come out with 5 agenda blueprints, which the youth did reject, and they formed the roundtable and gave the government another 5 agenda, which was intended to be their aim and their earnings. The government actually would not implement that because it looked like a thing that would hurt them during the election. So that evening, we had a friend of mine called me and told me that protesters are being killed, they're firing at protesters and stuff like that, and we had to move out immediately. The curfew was still, ongoing, and only essential workers, essential service workers were expected to be on the streets. So it was really quite challenging, but you needed to do something because the live videos, the live streaming that people were sharing from the hotel that was neighboring that particular arena was really very disturbing if you had some emotional complacency. So eventually we had to get there, and it was really very bloody. I had a first-hand experience. So oftentimes when I hear media reports, mainstream media, print media, and electronic media reporting something that's a bit inaccurate, I tend to smile and laugh because it is really beyond the politics of what happened on the 20th particular event. It is rather about the decision, the intention, and the resoluteness of the youth. It's been really very challenging for Nigerian youth moving down the streets. You could hear the chantings, you could hear some of the placards they were carrying. It was really demonstrating what they wanted. They needed a change, a genuine change. And that genuine change did not came up with the call and taxes squad, which was already existing in the days of the banded, the very notorious special anti-robbery squad. So it was really very, very challenging for the Nigerian youths to agree to the opinion of the government that South has been disbanded and that there's now a new team on ground to help, manage armed robbery activities and some other vices that bedevil the society. So these are some of the reasons why people continued to push for some of these reforms, from social media to gatherings. I was privileged to attend literally all the protests. I had to leave work to attend literally all the street protests because I could read. I have had a first, second, and third-hand experience of how these police officers have violated the rights of individuals. And it's been really very challenging, even when we have to go to the police stations to, get peaceful protesters who were arrested off. You could see how the police approached us. Some lawyers were detained, were beaten up.
Daniel, I think your bandwidth is a little bit low, and I actually want to hear. We have about 5 more minutes. If you're able to,
so these are some
Daniel,
of the issues that the Nigerian youth are pushed back.
Daniel, I'm sorry, I couldn't because I think you're going in and out a little bit of technical issues. Would you do me a favor and also type in some of the organizations that you worked with to know how to organize and to know where to go? I would love to hear, because we have about 5 more minutes. Exactly. Crystal's asking the right question. Where do we go to keep up with your activities, or to benefit, or to assist? Who should we know to go to? So Victoria, who do you guys have? Who should we follow from your perspective? Shioma, please type it in and also just jump in with some organizations.
So I'll just really briefly touch. So I founded an organization called the Philly Nigerian Professionals back in 2011. We've been around for a little bit. We're primarily a networking and social organization, but we do engage in charitable activities and also awareness and advocacy and, political oriented activities like what we're seeing now with the NSARS movement. We organized a rally for the Bring Back Our Girls campaign back in 2014. So we kind of serve as a bridge between the diaspora community here and people in Nigeria, because all of us have family in Nigeria. A lot of our members are born and raised in Nigeria. They might be students, or they came here as adults, or they may be like myself, born and raised in the United States, but you know, we still have family, we still visit. So we, you know, exactly what you're asking, that's some of our work to try to connect with partners on the ground. We've done, you know, fundraisers before where we have donated funding to verified and vetted charities that are doing things, you know, doing positive things on the ground in Nigeria. So that's just some of the work that we do. And so a lot of our work that we've been trying to do with this movement is connecting with partners. And I just want to highlight, I want to just also say that please, for the folks in Nigeria, you guys should not at all diminish the accomplishments. I can only speak for myself, but I will speak for the community. We were so proud and amazed, and we were so motivated to jump in because of the amazing accomplishments in only 5-10 days. They built up an amazing infrastructure. So there are a lot of amazing folks on the ground who did a lot under really difficult circumstances. So that's what we're going to be continuing to do, to try to make sure we stay as a bridge between ourselves here and folks in Nigeria.
That is fantastic. And while you were speaking, everybody just started jumping in with their links. This is exactly what we've been waiting for, because for those that can't see the chat, we are going to follow it up on our website, but I want to just put it out here now. Just some of the links that we've gotten so far. We've got BlackPhillyRadicalCollective.com. They have 13 demands around police abolition. We have the Feminist Coalition. We have BLM, that's Black Lives Matter, BLMPhilly.com, and they're at BLM Philly also, probably on Instagram. Is that right, Crystal? Okay. Yes to Feminist Company, even though they've stopped accepting donations at the moment, but we can still follow them. On Instagram, we have EIE Nigeria. Okay, on Instagram. We also have Philly Naija Professionals.com. That's Philly NAIJA Professionals.com. We have SERAP, SERAP, okay? Stadium Stompers from Jackie Wiggins, okay? And then there's also EIE.NG for Nigerians. And then the Feminist Co, I think the Instagram looks like it's feminist.co. We can definitely be sure we get that right. The important thing is that we can all get involved. We're running out of time here. This could go on and on, but I think the key is that, number one, we are educating not just our youth, but each other to see the similarities and to see that there's more that's going on that we're collectively joined in, and that we can band together to offer each other connection, to offer each other support. And that should be our goal, to not say, oh, that's them, this is us. This is our moment. I think that now more than ever, we need to find a way to support in every way possible. So please follow those links. Please look them up and see what you can do to be involved. Thank you. They put up the updated Instagram, and we are going to make sure that all goes on the sites. I'm out of time, but I'm going to give each of you 60 seconds, okay? Each of our panels, because you guys have been amazing and you're so informed. We really could give each of you your own show, but give you 60 seconds to just give our youth, okay, our Black youth, one word of either encouragement or instruction that you want them to have right now so that they know their next steps, okay? That's really important, is how do we move forward? I think adults sometimes know. Please encourage our youth with what their next steps were. Everybody can go. Everybody that's in this group, go for it. Dr. Crystal, you want?
Sure.
60 seconds.
Yes. So I'll just start by saying, especially as we're talking about youth, that if we look at historically and certainly in the contemporary moment, youth are the ones that have power, the most power. Youth are the ones that are always at the forefront of social change. We see it now and we see it historically. So I do just want to encourage any young person that's listening to really embrace and accept that role and to step into it, right? We are in a moment that is requiring so much from us if we want to see the forms of social and political change that are required for us to live well, to live the kind of lives that we deserve to live. And so I would just say that just in the spirit of this conversation, that we must fight harder. We must fight in a more unified and organized fashion. We must make the kinds of connections that we are attempting to make and looking at the connection between Philly and Nigeria. That is how we will win.
Ibukun, you want to jump in next?
Okay, I think that everybody has a part to play. And the first question you're asking yourself is, what unique parts do I have to play in this role? You don't have to do what someone else is doing, but you need to be making a difference and adding to the conversation. So whatever resources you have at hand, use it. If you can go out to protest. If you can use the social media for them, do it, but do it to the best of your ability and ask yourself, how can you take it a touch not I think what she said is really, really accurate. We are in this boat together. We can't say my side of the boat is not leaking, so it doesn't affect me. No, we are in this together. We are fighting for the human race. And once we know that we're not just doing it for one person, we're doing it for everybody. I mean, the phrase that there's this popular phrase that says injustice somewhere is injustice everywhere. And once we can see that we're doing the same thing for the same cause, then you can find your place and then you can be part of creating the big picture that we want to leave us to our future.
Daniel.
So I would like to say that it's a struggle that has begun already, and it's a struggle that must be sustained. The momentum in which it began and the momentum that it has built over the weeks and over the days must be sustained. And the resoluteness of every youth is actually commendable, but must also implore them to be a bit more vigorous in it. Blood has been sacrificed, lives have been sacrificed for this struggle, and this struggle surely will redefine our destiny for tomorrow, the destiny of future generations. So it's something that must be sustained by building alternatives to peaceful protests, building an alternative to street protests. If government barricades the street, we must begin to push a new set of ideas through a different vintage alternative so that we will be able to sustain the little gains we've achieved and perhaps even broaden the scope and the horizon for bigger and much more broader profits in this particular struggle. So I think it's something that is commendable, and it's something that we must begin to push until we get perhaps close to the promised land or even the promised land itself.
Victoria.
All right, so what I would like to say is that I would want to state a stanza from the Nigerian national anthem. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. I think when we have that in mind, when we understand that people died for this cause, people were wounded, people, lives were destroyed, emotions were destabilized, so many things happened for this cause. We should also understand that nation building is a collective responsibility.
Might be having a little technical difficulty with her. I'm going to give her another chance. So what I'd like to do at this moment.
Talk you down. People are trying to talk you down. Can I go ahead, please?
Yes, please. There we go.
All right, so you can put stuff in them, people are trying to talk you down because they have a different notion, they have a different understanding. Do not fight them. You know what you're fighting for, you know what you're standing for. So be intentional about this. Try to sensitize people wherever you are. You're in the market, you're inside the bus, you're inside the plane, you're around your friends, wherever you are, try to sensitize them because together we'd come out and together we'd do better. Thank you.
This is powerful. When our youth know the right thing to do, that gives us hope for our future. We want to show a brief video. After the video, I want to encourage all of our audience members to send in your questions. And we have some very specific audience members we actually want to talk to that want to interact with the panel. So did we get to talk to everybody? I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Did I miss anyone? I don't think I did. Shioma, there we go. Shioma, you're up. After Shioma, we're going to run a video and then we're going to take questions, especially from those of you who are directly involved. Shioma, jump in.
Just three things. The first is try your best to live without fear. Push the fear down. It's overwhelming and it's a natural response. But my fiance, that's his motto, just live without fear. The second is start local. When you feel overwhelmed, you're not sure where to go, what to do, start within your own community. I can guarantee you wherever you live, there's probably someone or some organization that's already been thinking the way you're thinking about getting involved. And the third is to remember that it's a marathon and not a sprint. So in the case of Nigeria, all of us were really so down after the massacre that happened on October 20th. But we have to remember that this is a war and not a battle. And in wars, there are ups and there are downs. There are peaks and there are valleys. So just because you're in a valley doesn't mean that you won't get up to the mountaintop at some point. Just those three points.
Those are three powerful points. Thank you so much, Shioma. Let's watch a brief video, and then I would like audience members, you can, while the video is going on, you can actually start thinking of your questions. We're going to interact with this panel a little bit, okay? So stay tuned. So as that very powerful video showed, we are at Fun Times Magazine very much in support of getting all of the information that we can out and in supporting any of you that are directly involved. So that's why those links matter. That's why your conversation matters. We want to actually invite the audience to jump in. We have some members of our own staff that are definitely passionate about this conversation. We want to invite them to speak to the panel, to speak to the people. We even have someone, one of our team members from Ghana. Nana, do you want to jump in and kind of throw this question out here yourself?
Yeah, thanks everyone for the conversation, the knowledge. But I'm just wondering about what ways we can kind of organize and maybe create a global, let's say, African community and power force. When I think about the Montgomery bus boycott that lasted for, let's say, 381 days, that economic protests, catalyzed desegregation for the bus in the US during the 1960s. So I'm wondering, can those type of tactics be useful in today's civil rights movement in the US? And are there similar ways or similar collective power that can be used in Nigeria as a protest?
Anyone can jump in from the panel, or actually anyone that's involved on here that has that can speak to that. Daniel or Ibukun?
Okay. So I was speaking with a friend. I don't know if what they did with the buses will work, but I was speaking with a friend and I was saying, do you know if we get everybody to actually start a conversation with NSAS and promote it? So those, whenever you call someone, you have to say NSAS and you continue the conversation until things change, we'll actually get people still talking about these things. I think it may not necessarily be, because our problem is not that we have, just one group of people causing us pain or discomfort. Our problem is that it's the entire system that is wrong. And what we started with NSAS is to try to get the attention of the government to know that, okay, things are not the same way as they were before. We are now awake and we are ready to start having this conversation. So if we're going to start having this conversation, I think even though they stop it, even they try to stop it on the social media platform, we can continue these conversations and get people to keep saying, okay, when I greet you with NSAS, or so that it's, that people are taking this conversation seriously until we see the change that we want. NSAS, end bad government, and whatever it is. But as long as we continue to have vision right in front of us, then we know that we are one step closer to actually getting there.
That's great. Nana, did that kind of speak to your question?
Yeah, thank you. But I just want to move a little bit further and just wonder if there's any, like in the US, Black people spend a lot of money on things that maybe we don't need to. And that economic power can be used as a force. So if we withhold that power, that could, force the government to make some change if we can, if we can make that happen. So I'm just wondering if there's a similar collective power that exists in Nigeria that could be useful as a form of protest. I think it's great to continue the conversation in this popcorn society, but yes, because it is a war, like one of the panelists said, just thinking about different strategies that we can employ.
Daniel, did you want to speak to that, or
Yes, I'd like to just say something very quickly. The question is actually well appreciated.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, during the protest, Nigerian.
I'll also do some research.
sorry, she's having some technical issues, so it's kind of a delay. Go ahead, Daniel. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think during the protest, Nigerian youth were able to raise quite an amount of money that was very incredible to most of us youths. We had a level of accountability, so most of us were able to see the figures as they came in from various countries, in all the type of currencies that people made donations to, all the platforms that were open for donations was very incredible. As I'm talking to you, the conversation is really the conversation is very much alive. It may not be as it were on social media during the protest time where people had to converge, we had to give venues, we had to, talk to people where to come out, the placards to hold, and perhaps things that they should do at some point, primarily just not to get into trouble. The conversation is really very much alive. As I'm talking to you, most Nigerian youth, 10 million Nigerian youths are trying to see how they could raise as little as 500 naira. That's just a bit above $1 presently, to see how we could raise 5 billion naira to form a political party gearing towards the 2023 polls. That's how massive the conversation is. That's how massive the funding. That's how massive the enthusiasm and the hopefulness for this type of initiative is really. So I think we are no longer looking at government. We're no longer looking at government trying to cut fundings. Just like Ibukun said, the NSAS process was like a key to a lot of things. We like end impunity, end bad governance, cut wages of legislators, and a lot of things really. So we know that these things will be difficult for the government to do, to cut the wages of legislators who are their cronies, who are their agents, their privies, and their servants. So we are beginning to look at a new structure. We're trying to find and redefine a new perspective where we can create a type of funding, where we can get into the political space, where we can see how we can take over power and perhaps improve the livelihood of Nigerians, because it is really beyond NSAS. NSAS was just a pointer to a lot of issues and a lot of societal wrongs that is wrong with the Nigerian nation, and that ought to be corrected immediately if the next generation would find any fortitude to enjoy the gains that the country ought to have made in this time.
This has been an ongoing comment that this is just the beginning of the topics that need to be tackled in Nigeria. I believe we have a guest with us tonight, Olamide Oworu. Are you here?
Yo, I'm right here. Hello.
Hello, welcome, welcome. We've actually published an article with you before. I'd love to hear your feedback on this conversation, on this topic. We're really glad to have you. We'd love to hear about the article that you wrote.
Right. So in general, I just was expressing my experiences personally with SARS officials and stories from, friends and family, just people around me in general, and other stories that I had heard on social media. Personally, I have been a victim of some form of police brutality and profiling. I've been stopped multiple times. I've been accused of being a criminal. I've been accused of, having being in possession of drugs as well. And I've had friends who've been physically assaulted. I mean, a friend of a right, picked up and taken to the police station, and they literally made him agree to a fake statement, and then they gave him a gun and took a picture of him with the gun, claiming the gun was evidence. So there's so many stories, so many examples I can cite right now, just relating to how they extort and physically assault people. I've had friends who've been taken to ATM machines at night and have been made to withdraw ridiculous amounts of money just to guarantee they stay alive. And in that moment, it's hard to think of anything else but just staying alive. You're really just trying to just make it out of the moment, and it's very scary. And I don't think young people deserve to go out on to make back. Not be the crime rate is high or anything, but literally just living in fear of uniformed officials that are supposed to protect you. So that's really what I was just sharing in the article, just my own experiences, how I feel like as young people, it's very important that we educate ourselves on our history so we know where we're coming from and know what we need to fix so we can go in a different direction. I feel like the system is tailored in a way that is supposed to keep us ignorant on purpose, because the people in positions of power know that knowledge is power. And they know that if we become aware of the power that we possess as the people, then it'll be a lot harder for them to continue with all the atrocious acts that they're, carrying out up there. So I feel like as young people, it's important that we take it upon ourselves to go to libraries, read books, read articles on the internet, and really engage in conversations like these to really just exchange ideas. Because I feel like, you never really stop learning and there's always something to pick up.
That's powerful. And if you don't mind putting the link to your article in here, just for those that haven't seen it, so that we can definitely share
Right.
that.
No problem. I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Emmanuel Okoro has had his hand raised. I'd love to hear your feedback, Emmanuel. Are you still available? You're
yes,
muted.
I'm here.
Yeah, there you are. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Great, great. I'd love to hear your feedback, Emmanuel.
Yes, I appreciate what people are saying, and I appreciate the energy the young gentlemen and general ladies are putting up there. My Anthony, I have a book that is out there in the market. It's called The Ultimate Victory, and this is the leadership of the 21st century. And it's kind of that I predicted what is really happening now. And it is a challenge to the young men and young ladies out there to take up the leadership into your own hands. If you're waiting for these people to hand over the leadership to you, it will never happen, because they have saved millions and billions of dollars waiting to challenge you when you come up to challenge them. What I'm advising or I'm requesting is that all of us, if you think that we're going to achieve something, can we have 1 million march in Philadelphia, all of us together? Because that is the only way you get press attention. We can form 100 political parties. It's not going to do anything. These people have the machineries to challenge you whatever way you take it to. So the best thing is to invite the world press. And how do you invite the world press is that by showing up your force, your strength, your energy. So let's all of us come out, make up a day, all of us will come together to have a political rally here in Philadelphia. If we say 1 million, we may get 500 or 300,000. That would be a big number too.
That's great suggestions. And thank you, Emmanuel, for your feedback. I want to just point out we're at the end of our time. I'm going to get ready to turn it over to Fearless Leader. But before I do, I just want to thank every one of our panelists for their time, for their energy, for their impassioned responses that not only give explanation to a lot of what's going on, but also give us action. And I appreciate everyone in this room who shared feedback, shared an article, and shared true personal experiences that let us know that this is not, something you can just sit on the shelf and walk away from. All of us need to feel touched personally by what's happening, whether it's local in Philadelphia, whether it's in Nigeria. These are all of our brothers and sisters, and all of us should feel pricked in our hearts at this point to want to do something. We should feel moved to action. Fun Times magazine is dedicated to sharing information that impacts the diaspora. And I'm excited because this is one of the most impactful meetings I feel that we've had. And I really want to encourage everyone here, follow Fun Times, share your feedback on our pages, on Facebook, on our YouTube. We are streaming this live on YouTube tonight, and share it. Share this link because people need to hear this that weren't here tonight. Make sure they can hear what this conversation was and find out the links and find out how to band together. With that, I'm going to take a moment and turn it over to our fearless leader, Eric Nzarebe, the head, the king of Fun Times Magazine. I'll give you a new title every time, right? So this time it'll be the king. I'll give you Bishop. I don't know. Okay, but we want to give him a moment to go ahead and just greet you all.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you. I thank every person that is in this audience, especially the speakers, especially people who are calling in from the mother continent. It's almost 12 o'clock over there in Ghana, in Nigeria. So I see Candice was here. Candice called in from Jamaica. So yes, this is what diaspora is all about. May I thank all the people that support us. Dr. Lorena Marshall is in the house. Dr. Lorena, do you have a minute? Want to say hello to us? I see Dr. Lorena Marshall. Okay.
Hi there. How are you, Eric? I'm so glad I was able to get on tonight. I've been energized, and it's all about freedom. It's all about standing. And I'm so excited about all of our young people and how they're just stepping in, and they're not afraid. So again, I applaud them, I salute them, and I stand with them. But thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
You are awesome, Dr. Lorena. I don't know what we could do without you, you and Independence Blue Cross. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I also want to thank Jackie Wiggins. It was through Jackie Wiggins that we got Dr. Krista Strong in the house. Jackie, do you have a minute? You're on mute. Okay, well, you can see.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. This was wonderful. We need parts 2, 3, 4, and 100. Okay, we need to really expand. But I thank you. This was a wonderful piece, and I'm so happy everyone was on the panel. And Crystal, thank you so much. And Sandy too. Thank you, Sandy.
Awesome. I want to say that just to let you know, our next event, November 13th, is going to focus on Diaspora Disconnect. And I'm going to send private information to Dr. Krista Strong, to see how we're going to make that conversation November 13th very, very strong. And hopefully by then we would have survived the election and number 45, and then we can actually talk serious stuff. That said, this is what Fun Times is all about. Connect the dots and create intentional spaces for the diaspora community. Whether you are in Africa or you are in America or you are in the Caribbean, you've seen how quickly issues are. We have so much in common than the things that divide us. So sometimes try. Oh, look at Candice. Candice, how are you? How are you doing from Jamaica? Do you have a minute?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I've been listening, and I must say that we might think we are disconnected because we are separated by land and sea, but we really aren't. Though the experience in terms of today's discussion may be different in some aspects, in other aspects, it's pretty much the same. You know, I myself haven't been a victim of police brutality in any shape or form, but best believe it does happen in Jamaica, it happens within the Caribbean region. And I know persons who would have experienced it firsthand. So I am appreciative of this kind of forum and this kind of discussion, and I look forward to more topics and panels and all of that across various topics. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. She's calling in from Jamaica. I see quite a lot of people on this audience. If I continue to invite all of them, but I want to say a big thank you. I'm going to pass it on back to Jennifer. She's done a wonderful job, and I'm sure she's going to wrap it up. Jennifer, thank you very much for all you do. Next event, November 13th. Then we're going to be discussing more about what holds us together. We're going to discuss diaspora disconnect, dissect it, and find all those common grounds that will bring us and we can build together. Thank you, Jennifer. I thank every person. Keep up the great job.
It's my pleasure, of course. This is a joy for me every time we get to do a Fun Times Fridays. Before we close out, and we are getting ready to wrap up, I just have to remember to thank our sponsors. Again, if you all want to donate, if you know of other sponsors that want to jump on the Fun Times team, we look forward always to additional team members, to partners, organizations that can help us keep this platform going, that can help us keep engaged with the community and diaspora. So please send that information, as well as what we said earlier in the video, that if you have information on ending SARS, on people that are involved in the protest, any of this information, send it to info@funtimesmagazine.com. We love the feedback, we love the information, and we are active in responding. Our sponsors, we want to thank tonight, Independence Blue Cross Foundation. We want to thank PICO. We want to thank Beach Companies. We want to thank Brown ShopRite Superstores, and HR and Benefits to You. It is definitely a team that comes together to make these evenings fantastic. We also want to thank, there was one more little chat that came through right as we were ending. John Adegbola, he also said that he wanted to jump in and just mention that he's involved in activism and politics as a youth, both at home in Nigeria, and he organized a protest here in Philadelphia last Saturday. This is powerful, to hear people that are taking that step, and like Shioma said, working past the fear, you know what I mean? That's major for us older ones, and I am in the older team, but we love to hear it. We love to know that we're not being, the world, the situation of our future isn't being left to nothing, that it isn't being dropped. You all are encouraging us to know that we as a team can make this happen, and we are united, and it is going to be hope in our future. We can do this, and we are going to rally together to support you wherever you are, however you are. Fun Times stands with you. So with that, I have to thank our team that makes the Fun Times nights amazing. We have to thank, of course, fearless leader Eric. We have to thank Susanna Kate and our own Sandy Lawrence, Nana Amaado, who calls in all the way from Ghana. We'd like to thank Diamond Jones and Walter Wirtz, Alyssa Yamazaki, Timothy Schreiber, Uju Nwago, and Amarachi Eguzoro. Now, do either of you want to have a moment, because we have a minute or two, because you both are very, very passionate about this. Amara or Uju, do you want to say a few words? Don't be scared.
No. I would like to say thank you to the speakers, especially from Nigeria. I think for me, I feel they've touched everything, and I'm so glad I attended. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Uju, are you still with us? I'm not sure if she dropped off. Oh, there she is.
I'm here.
It was a nice one. I'm so glad to be a part of this team. It was a good platform for everybody, both those in the diaspora and those here. I believe we are working towards something wonderful. So let's keep up the good work. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. With that, we are going to wrap up tonight's Fun Times Friday. I hope you guys had an amazing time. First of all, I hope to, if you guys could take 2 seconds and fill out this poll, because polls matter. You know what I mean? We got to know what's in your head. So take a second. It'll take you, click, 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 and you're done. Please fill out how you feel about the event. How'd you hear about it? Do you follow us? I know everybody's going to say, yes, I follow you. Okay. Even if you have to like fake it and do it on your phone real quick so you can say yes. Okay. Follow us on social media, Fun Times Fridays, Fun Times Magazine on Facebook, Instagram, the same thing. We have a YouTube. So follow us and let us know how tonight's event went. I know for me, I'm so touched. I'm so excited. It actually makes my Friday and my weekend better to just know that all of you are out here and that you're doing the work and that we have people that are banding together to make these changes. And then after the polls, we're going to do, because I must just be into noise. I don't know why I have kids and I hear noise all the time, but we're going to unmute our microphones, we're going to unmute ourselves, and we're just going to give a farewell, good night. You guys tell me how to say that in Igbo. I don't know. Like somebody tell me how to say good night, but we're going to say bye.
Later.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.